Hello, folks. Got a very interesting video for you here today, and it is how I flipped millions of rogues markers on the currency exchange to make 10 div in my first 2 days of the league. All right, so here's kind of what I plan to talk about in this video in a nutshell. Okay, I want to talk about the currency I made, how I made it, what I plan to do with the currency, um, how to use the currency exchange in a proper way, some pros and cons of using the currency exchange, and then at the end of the video, I'll put a super cut of some of the flipping that I was doing. I'll just put it on like 10x speed or something like that because nobody wants to watch me flip currency for like a bajillion hours. Okay, so let's start off with the currency. So where is the currency here? So right now, let's see. I've got well, I just sold this, but I had about 700k of rogues markers. I have now, there's another 300c here, 2 div here that I got after selling chaos to chaos was really going down in value. So I started buying divines because I didn't want to lose the value. And I sold some stuff and ended up buying this 700 plus DPS Corsair sword to like invest into my character. And actually, there is some more selling that I did to invest in my character, but I didn't keep track of it all. I probably should have kept track of it all, but a lot of this gear was bought with that as well. So all in all, it adds up to around 10 div, maybe a little bit more than 10 div, and that's where the currency is sitting right now. Now, how did I make the currency? Well, what I did was I put a margin spread between two items. In this case, I chose Rogue's Markers and Chaos Orb. The reason I chose this was because Rogue's Markers is a nice currency to flip because the ratio from Rogues to Chaos is in the like 700 to 1,000 ratio. So that means that you can kind of play with the number a lot and you can undercut by like one or two rather than if you're doing the same thing with essences, you would need literally thousands of essences to do the same kind of thing. As a currency to flip rogues markers is pretty nice. I typically ended up flipping between 5 and 10% margin. So, for example, right now I'm selling at 7.99. Yesterday I was selling around 750. I even got down to 600 at one point, and now it's gone back up. So the price has been fluctuating, but as it's been fluctuating, I've been keeping that margin around 5 to 10%. So I was buying earlier this morning, I was buying at 840 to 1, and now I'm selling at 805. So you can see there's about 4% margin, but I have had much higher margins, and there was a point where I was buying at 950 and selling for 800, so I was getting significantly more margin there. But as the league has gone on, the margin has been dropping because people are undercutting each other, and we're getting to the point now where it's getting kind of prohibitive to trade because of the high gold cost. I'm going to get into that in a little bit, but undercutting and flipping is not very easy on the currency exchange, and I think GGG did that intentionally to stop people from doing exactly what I did in the first 2 days. So I do plan to sell this currency, everything that's up here. I plan to sell. I'm going to keep this. I'm going to keep this. I plan on running blueprints, so it'll be nice to have just kind of a base of rogue markers for those blueprints. All right, so how do you use the currency exchange? What you do is you list over here items that you have, and then you list items that you want. Now, one thing that's really important to know about the currency exchange here is that there's a difference in the gold cost between buying and selling. So for example, let's say I have 100 chaos that I want to trade. It's going to only cost me 106 gold coins to do this trade for the rogues markers. But if I switch that, it's 2,500, okay? And so this is where I was talking about when you're trying to adjust to people undercutting, it becomes very prohibitive in terms of gold cost because now you need every 100C worth of the currency, you need 2,500 gold to be able to do that. So at this level here with the 200C trades that I was doing near to the end, it was 5,000 gold every time I wanted to reprice or slash sell, and you can just see I've been just bleeding my gold down. So the currency exchange, very good for players who are trying to buy small amounts of a currency here or there. Not so good for people who are trying to flip currency. And I think that that's actually a good thing. I think that's how the currency exchange was intended to be made. So that's basically the basics of the currency exchange. You put a price in here of what you have, and then a price of what you want, and then you execute the order. Now, let's go through the pros and cons here. First pro, I think the UI is actually pretty clean. I think it's pretty obvious to anybody who's using it, which one is which, the have versus want, and that's great for new players. So that's a big thumbs up. Again, I think another pro is it's great for buying things. If you have chaos and you want to buy something with your chaos, the gold cost is pretty low. You can get whatever you need, and that's awesome. Especially buying things like chisels or just like, some scarabs for your map device. Currency exchange is excellent for that kind of thing. And another big pro that I have to say about the currency exchange is that they've done some pretty quick improvements on the currency exchange. So, for example, if I click here, it goes into, there's an owned section, and then you can see like your total amount of currency that's owned, right? So that's pretty nice. You can see I have like 300k rogues markers, whatever, right? Getting into cons, selling to chaos has a very high gold cost, especially when the number of units increases. Again, this was done intentionally to stop flippers. But it can be a little bit prohibitive. And if you're like farming something, like let's say you're farming harvest and you want to like get a lot of chaos worth of harvest, that can be kind of painful. Like you need to keep on mapping. Now, if you're doing harvest and you're just doing this, chances are you would have enough gold anyway, so it's not so much of an issue. It's more of an issue when you're trying to like list things and relist things that the gold cost becomes a bit of a problem. Another con is this ratio here like continuously fluctuates, and sometimes when you're like typing, it'll like, I don't know if I can even make it happen right now, just like accidentally. Oh, there we go, perfect. So sometimes it'll like interrupt your typing and then put something in, and then you click out, and then it like locks it as soon as you click out. So it's like, obviously I didn't want this amount, right? But it just fluctuates while you're in there typing. So one piece of advice that I would have for GGG if they want to improve the system is to make it so if you're in here and your cursor's in here, this should absolutely not ever change, because you can really screw somebody over. I accidentally sold like 950 rogues markers for 100C to somebody, and I was so annoyed. I was like, what the hell? Like it just like dropped like I was typing and it dropped some zeros off accidentally, and somebody got a really good deal. So that was kind of a pain point. One other thing that I'll say though, if you do plan to do flipping, one thing that's absolutely mandatory is the upgrading of your miner. So you can see here I've got my mining to maximum rank. The reason I did this is because marking ore in areas grants gold equal to the amount of ore. Again, if you're doing flipping, the gold cost gets really high. You need to have a lot of gold income. This can make it go from like having like 4 to 5k gold in a map to having like 7 or 8k gold in a map. So that you're chaining, it can actually make a pretty big difference. Okay, so just some final thoughts here. Would I do this again? Now, obviously, I made 10 div in the first 2 days doing this, so, like, it's pretty profitable, especially in the first couple of days of the league. I think at this point now, where people are undercutting me and, like, I have to keep on, like, changing the listings and, like, paying a ton of gold costs, and I'm just, like, bleeding gold, like, it's not doing what it was earlier in the league now, and I think it's just kind of becoming more painful and more of a burden, so I'm going to stop doing the flipping. But I can definitely see how somebody, if they were like in a big group and they were like farming a ton of gold, getting like big quant bonuses and stuff like that, and they had extra gold to be able to play with, that you could definitely do some flipping and make a lot of money on the currency exchange. This isn't really conducive to Heist because Heist doesn't really drop very many coins. So like if you plan on doing something like Heist or Delve, then you probably don't want to be using this currency exchange at all, because you don't get enough like gold to actually fund it. Yeah. So those are my thoughts on the currency exchange, trading literally millions of rogues markers and making 10D in my first weekend. And I guess now I'll put a supercut of some of those flips. If you liked this video, you want to see more tomfoolery like this, then please like and sub. Almost to 1,000 subs where I can monetize the channel, which would be a massive deal. So thanks a lot, guys, and I'll talk to you later. Alright, welcome to the supercut. So, the vast majority of the trades are in this supercut. There's some stuff that didn't make it in there just because my OBS wasn't working properly, or, I just didn't have it on at the time when I was doing the trade. But most stuff is in there. Alright, so started off with lockpicking contracts, just to get the initial bit of Rogue's Markers and Chaos. I just figured I would do that because those are two sides of the flipping that I was going to do, so I figured lockpicking contracts would be good because I could get a little bit of both at the beginning. Started off like I was just doing one trade at a time, and then it would like fill, and then I would do the other half of the trade. It would fill, and I would do the other half of the trade, and so on and so forth. It wasn't until later in the process that I amassed enough currency that I was able to just do like, two sides. But I do recommend actually not doing what I did at the very beginning and doing like these big amounts. Like, it's almost better to have two smaller amounts going at the same time so that you can be both buying and selling at the same time. I think if I were to do this again, that's kind of what I would do. I wouldn't do them in just like one, because you've got 10 trading slots, so you might as well make use of them, right? Maybe like do a tenth of your currency for each trade or whatever, like, and then you just keep the trades rotating. So just like whatever your total amount of currency is, just split it into 10 and then use the 10 slots. It was around this point where I accidentally got scammed too, and I lost like 100C, so that didn't help. Alright, you can see now I'm starting to get up into the like 200C range. What a lucky map. Some scarabs there. I got a lot of scarabs. Still on my old sword. Actually, I spent almost the entire process of this farming with Queen of the Forest. It's really important to have a lot of movement speed if you're going to be doing this, because you need to farm a lot of gold to keep the listings going. Alright, now we're getting up into the point where I'm starting to have 2 trades at once, and then it quickly balloons into 4 trades at once. These are all for 100C, so now we're up to about 400C of value. The price actually fluctuated quite a bit on these trades. Like the bottom price often stayed at 600 and something, and then but it went up to like 740 or 720 or something like that at some points too. A lot of time I spent looking at the trade site, and also just like on the calculator trying to like figure out what I want to price each thing at, and then like doing like little tests. I didn't put all the tests in there, but there's like little tests where I'd put like one chaos worth of Rogue's Markers up just to see if it would sell at a certain price, and then I would like test that, and then I would put it just undercut just slightly over the next person who was selling like a big amount. Now you can see the number of Rogue's Markers is starting to get pretty high. Like even in this shot here, you've got probably 600,000 Rogue's Markers. Plus like whatever's in the bank at that point. Oh, and you can see the swords change. So at this point too, I've also taken out 2 div. Alright, and that's pretty much rounding out the video there. Now we're getting up to the point where the video began, where I've got, a couple 100,000 Rogue's Markers, a couple hundred Chaos, a couple Divine, and that gear that you see on the character. And now I'm basically just going to sell the rest of what I haven't used up and fund the rest of the character, get 6-link Queen of the Forest, get my Pandemonious Amulet, and that'll be basically it. So if you liked the video, leave a thumbs up. See you next time.